Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. Whether it's your first time joining us or you've been following along on our adventure since we bought this farm, we really appreciate you and we want to say thank you so much. Today in this video we're bringing you more planting. Fall is a great time to go to your local garden shop, and we love doing that, especially when it comes time for looking for shrubs, looking for perennials. As the weather gets ready to change, a lot of the garden centers start to put a lot of those things on sale, and we lucked out once again this year and got a lot of these amazing plants for 50% off. Today we're going to plant in the Stonecrops. They already have some pollinators on them. Dragon is behind the camera. You can come in and see one that's here right now. But these are a full sun plant. These are perennials, and we're going to be planting these. They are a sedum species. What's really nice about these is the texture of these leaves. It's a little bit kind of thick and I guess fleshy a little bit, for lack of a better way to describe them. But we've been looking at different types of sedums like this, and we came across these at our local Home Depot, and they were very eye-catching compared to some of the other ones that we've seen. So we got our hands on pretty much everything that they had in stock. We'll be planting these here right along the driveway in front of our fireplace. This gap that's here, the plan eventually is to find a nice blue spruce that we will plant here. We already went through in all of the area that you see that has pine straw. We put in bulbs, so we've already planted some spring bulbs. Looking forward to how that's going to turn out later in the spring, of course, of next year. So in the meantime, we're going to add this little bit of color around. And then also, as part of today's project too, we're going to get started on our shade garden. And the shade garden is going to go on the other side of the house, out near the white fence. If you've been following along, just on the other side of the hydrangeas. So when we get over there, we will show you where the hydrangeas are that we planted most recently and where these are going to go. So we have three different types of hostas that we were going to be planting. The first one here is a Proven Winners Shadowland Diamond Lake. This is a blue hosta when it comes up. We get pretty big. So we have this. Do a grouping of those in addition to another hosta here, this elegans, if I'm pronouncing that properly. When you look at pictures of these, this has some more of the variegation on the leaves. The more mature it gets, the more pronounced those become. And then groupings of smaller hostas that we'll be putting in. And this is just a simple hosta mix that we're going to add in to the mix as well, getting that shade garden going. So that's the plan for today. The sun is coming and going. It is Halloween here, but we had a lot of rain over the past couple of days. But after the rain, very gorgeous days. Perfect time to go out and do some planting. So we're going to get into that. Dragon is behind the camera, but we're both going to get our hands dirty today. So let's get to it. Come on, Trey. Let's go. Come on. Let's go, Mama. made some minor adjustments to where we placed things when we first brought them out here. As you can see, everything is pretty much in the same spot. Dragon and I had already walked out earlier and talked about placement for these particular hostas. We have some other hostas that are in planters that we moved here to the farm from our home in Maryland. So at some point we'll add those also here to the mix. But the vision is to create our shade garden here in this spot. In addition to the hostas that we have here now that we're gonna plop into the ground today, the ones that we will transplant later from planters that we have, potentially adding some brunnera as well as some other shade-loving plants into this spot. Ultimately, we would like to make this just a beautiful seating area. Right here next to Dragon is a maple tree that is starting to lose its leaves even now in the fall. It's really gorgeous. Even further across to the right, if Dragon pans over further to the right, you will see Japanese maple that is there shining. And then back over this way, we have a black locust that is dead. At some point wanted to get in there and get that removed, and then an evergreen tree that is right behind it. So this area hopefully will be very well protected for all of those part sun and part shade loving plants. We're gonna get started with these, get them in the ground, and then let them do their thing throughout the winter and come back in the spring nice and pretty. This portion of the project is now complete. We managed to get everything in the ground. We had to make a few adjustments based on where we were going to plant things, simply because of all the mature trees that are in the area. We hit a lot of roots, which is what we dealt with previously when we were planting, but that's okay. The purpose of this shade garden that we're creating isn't necessarily to be all tight and buttoned up, but to just let it be whimsical and fun and kind of free-flowing, because as we see hostas somewhere that we like, or some other shade-loving plants, we will end up grabbing them and just adding them here as well too. One thing that we did notice, perhaps because of all the rain, is just how wet this soil is. So we're hoping that that won't negatively impact what we planted here, but at least we know we don't have to worry about trying to keep everything watered, at least right now, as it kind of goes and starts to root in before the season changes too much. Right here also too, we planted some hydrangeas. See kind of a grouping of three. It's one here, one back here, and then the third one is here. And we have a little drift that kind of runs right on up this little hill. As you see, we're on the other side of the house from where we started earlier. And directly behind us is a major highway where we planted another group of hydrangeas, more mature hydrangeas that we split. We did a video on that about a week or two ago. We can link that down below for you as well. So those of you following along can get a little bit of a sense of where we are and where we're starting the shade garden. But here are those hydrangeas. All of them seem to be doing pretty well, and especially with the rain that we've had over the last few days, helping them to really get watered in and established. So we're gonna get ready to head on up to the other side of the house and finish the second part of the planting with those Stonecrop plants. It's overcast, looks like it might rain a little bit more, which if it does, we're happy for that. Saves us on having to water these in, but we're gonna get moving and try to get all of that stuff into the ground just in case it does rain. So let's get on to part 2 of the planting. All right, we're back on the other side of the house again where we started earlier. This is the southwest side of our home, and it gets that really intense sun throughout the day. So we have to be very deliberate about the type of plants that we choose to put here. So again, we've started with the Stonecrop. This is our first time owning these, so we will have to see how they go and how they do in this environment once we get them in the ground. But these are a full sun plant, perennial according to the tag. So we're gonna now go ahead and get these in the ground, and we may have to do a little bit of watering here because this side may be a little bit drier than the shade side that we just planted the hostas in. But once we get the shovel into the ground, we'll be able to check it out then and see what we have to do from there. So part 2 of the planting project is now completed. We have gotten in the Stonecrop plants into the ground here. We ran out of our Espoma hollytone, which you saw us using when we first started planting the hostas in the shade garden area. But these are sedums. They're used to a little bit more hardier soil and harsher conditions. Plus everything is getting ready to really head into its dormancy period, so we don't have to worry so much about trying to give it too much right now. We'll come back in the spring, make sure that everything gets fertilized then. So as we started over here, we had 10 of these to plop into the ground. We have a drift of 5 coming around the curve here. We have a space here. Again, our plan is to look for a blue spruce to put here in front of the chimney, and then the remaining drift of 5 that kind of go over there. For future planting, you know, it may just kind of look a little bit sparse that we've just dropped in a little bit of color here, even though it's Halloween here in Northern Virginia. Today's high is 68 degrees. We still haven't had our first frost yet. So even this little bit of color, we're enjoying it right now, but we know that that won't last, which is fine. We have, once again, already put in lots of daffodils bulbs into the ground that we did a couple of weeks ago for the springtime. Ultimately, we will be looking for some shrubs that will come just under the windows to place on both sides, and then kind of fill in other things as we move along and go. This gravel driveway too, we're in the process of getting this all cleaned up. A month or 2 ago, a dragon came through with some industrial strength weed killer, and we've been hoping that this will go away on its own. We spent about an hour one morning after breakfast going through trying to pull this up by hand, and that is a lot of work. So we're really not interested in doing that. Hopefully as time goes on, it'll come a little bit easier to shake loose. But as this flower bed kind of takes shape, ultimately we're gonna be taking it right on around, extending the flower bed on the front of the house a little bit. We already have some established shrubs that the previous owners had planted. We went and plopped in one of our Japanese maples that we had at our townhome in Maryland, and then we're gonna extend out a little bit more so that we can create space to put in some annuals and have some color and something pretty to look at when we come home, and then when others also too come in to visit. That's it for us in this video. We thank you guys for tuning in. We hope you stick around to see all the amazing things we have going on here at the farm. I know a lot of you have been reaching out to us, commenting, asking questions. We're really appreciative of how excited you are. We are absolutely beyond excited ourselves for all the things that we have planned now as well as in the future, and we look forward to sharing that journey with you. So thanks for tuning in again. We hope to see you in the next video. Bye.